Hey guys, Ascendant here. In this video, we're covering relationships, when to walk away from a relationship, when to try to save the relationship, and how to save the relationship. So a lot of people have a hard time figuring out when to walk away. They're unhappy, but they miss the good times. They just want the good times again so badly. Or they're afraid of the unknown, being single again, having to move out, what'll happen to the kids, things like that. One of the many things you need to consider first and foremost is, do you want to save the relationship? The second is, can you save the relationship? The last that we will cover is how to save that relationship. But first, we need to figure out if you even want to save it. So to start, you have to ask yourself, do you still want what you two had at some point or another? Or have you changed and no longer want the type of relationship you ever had with them? If there is a point you two had previously that you still want, then you have a reason to fight for the relationship. If you honestly can't see any point in the relationship where you'd like it to be like that again, chances are you grew apart and it can't be fixed. Or this person just wasn't the right person for you to begin with. You can't force someone to go on the same path as you in life. So if you two are headed in different directions in life now and you no longer want the things you two used to want anymore, then what are you really fighting for at this point? The only hope with this type of situation is to sit down with the other person, talk about the changes you or they have made, what you or their new expectations are, and to see if you two can find a new path to share in life that works for both of you. More often than not, you really want to use a professional to intervene here and to mediate, like couples counseling, but I'll get into that and other solutions more later on. What this comes down to is to determine if you had or might be able to have the type of relationship you want with this person. Be realistic with yourself and with them. If you want what you had with them, or you feel you can take a new path in life together, then on to the next thing. Can you save the relationship? Basic question, but the answer to this tends to be far more complicated. Some of the main things you have to cover are, number one, why did things change to where you're unhappy? Is it something that can be reconciled in some way, or is it something that can't be? What I mean by this is it even possible to change the circumstances that caused the problems? Like, say for example, your spouse has become an alcoholic for whatever reason. The first question to ask in this situation is, do they admit it's a problem? If they do, there's a chance it can be fixed. If they refuse to acknowledge they even have a drinking problem, then at that point, no, it can't be fixed. Not until they choose to change their mindset on it. This obviously doesn't just apply to drinking, but to any change in circumstances like this that might be able to be resolved. And don't waste your time trying to force them to change. Trying to force them will only worsen the problem, make them resent you, or both. I mean, you can try intervention or some other way to address the problem, but don't try to force them to do it. If you try, they're still not willing. As much as you want to, you can't force them to change. They are the ones who need to choose to change. So say it's the latter. They don't see it as a problem, but meanwhile, you don't like how they are when they drink, and that's the source of your problems. Well, at that point, you need to figure out, can you live with that or not? Can you stay and accept how that person is when they are drinking or whatever the problem is? If yes, then you have to find a way to find happiness in the relationship despite that problem. If not, then you don't have any choice but to either walk away or continue to be unhappy. As much as it sucks, again, you can't force someone to change who doesn't want to, no matter how bad what they're doing is. If they do want to change, then you need to either help them or at least support them in whatever resources they need to make that change happen. Number two, if it can be changed, how will you feel after it does change? Essentially, can you truly move past it? Whatever the problem was, you're still going to remember it even after it's resolved. You need to figure out if you can forgive the person and move on past what caused you to be unhappy after it is fixed. Example with this one. Say your spouse cheated. As far as the first question, can it change? Of course it can. They can stop cheating, and you two can take steps to rebuild the trust, assuming you even want to at that point. However, you have to really think about this one. Can you rebuild that trust? Can you get over the fact that they slept with someone else, or will it haunt you so long as you're with them? With some matters like this, it's too difficult to figure this one out for sure at first, especially if it's something that's sprung on you unexpectedly. You might need some time to separate for a while, or at least get some space from them to sort it out in your head. The thing is, What happened is something you don't see yourself ever fully moving past, something you think you'll always hold a grudge about. It's not going to work. That's not fair to do to them, and it's not fair to do to yourself. If you know without any doubt you can't move past whatever the issue was, for both your sakes, you need to walk away. As hard as it might be, you just have to keep reminding yourself there's no longer a happy future there for either of you. There is a wound there that is never going to go away, and the only way for you to heal is to leave the relationship and to heal on your own. Likewise, if you know on their end this is something that they will never forgive and it's always going to be an open wound on their end, you might have to be the one to walk away yourself to help them. Number 3, let's say you covered that one, and yes, you feel you will be able to fully move past it. Now, the next step is there a feasible solution? Some solutions might be so extreme that they're impractical or cause one of you or both of you to be unhappy in other ways after the fact. As far as solutions, we're going to cover them soon, but let's say you have a resource that can help you to find a solution. Is there a solution that could be feasible for both of you? An example of this could be, say your significant other has kids. You get a job offer in another state, somewhere far away from their child's ex they share custody with. You're 100% certain you're going to take this job offer, or you have to no matter what. However, if you move, your ex won't be able to regularly see their child anymore. If their child is fairly young and this is absolutely not an option for them, but you also can't pass up this work opportunity, there isn't much of a feasible solution there other than a long-distance relationship in this circumstance. Some situations might not have any alternative at all. Unless one of you can figure out some alternative, some compromise on one side or the other, or both, something like that could have no feasible solution. If there isn't an option, then you can't fix that. Circumstances won't let you. You have to be realistic and accept that. Number 4. This is the last but also most important one of all. Are you both willing to work towards a solution? If you're prepared to try to fix things, but your spouse adamantly refuses to work with you on it, you can't fix it. You both have to be willing to put in the effort. No matter how simple you feel the solution is, or how close you two are to a solution, if they aren't willing to make the effort with you, it won't work. I know this one can be so disheartening, as you might think to yourself, all we need to do is such and such and things will be fine, it's so easy. But no matter how easy you think it is, if your spouse isn't on board with you, it's not possible. There really isn't much you can do here other than make your intentions clear to your spouse. You make it clear why you're unhappy, what you need to happen to fix it, and if they aren't willing to do that, you can't stay with them. I know this one can really suck when you feel like it should be an easy fix. But if it's only easy in your eyes, then it's not easy. If they refuse to work with you on a solution, I hate to tell you this, but it cannot and will not work. And promises of them doing it later on at some point, that doesn't cut it. Unless there's a really good reason for them to delay it, it's most likely just a delay tactic and they won't ever actually end up following through and doing it with you. And if there is a delay, it's best to ease off the relationship until they're ready to work with you on it to prevent further damage to the relationship until you two are prepared to start working on it together. So, let's say you go through those questions with a yes on all of them. Great. So then now it's just a matter of finding a solution. The solution is of course going to depend on the problem along with what you're both willing to work with. The best solution, at least to start, in just about any given relationship problem is couples counseling. There is a 75% success rate when it comes to couples counseling. 75% of couples end up resolving their issues. That means odds are, if you are willing to both do it, you're most likely going to be able to fix your problems. There's no other resource out there that I'm aware of that is as effective at fixing relationship issues as couples counseling. Not to mention that if you take the time to find a counselor with solid reviews from clients, your chances of success are going to be even higher than that 75, probably somewhere upwards of like 90% or more if they're really good. You just have to try to search around the web for reviews on that counselor. If you're not tech savvy, post in the comments below after finishing this video and I can help you with it. But I'm not going to get into all that in the video. There are some counselors out there that just aren't that great, like there are in any industry. So when you do consider this one, make sure to look into them online, look for reviews, look for feedback from other clients of theirs. Make sure you find a counselor with solid, positive reviews, and you are almost guaranteed to solve your problems. Again, assuming a yes to the other 4 questions. I know some people see a stigma associated with counseling. They'll say only crazy people do it, or a relationship shouldn't be this hard. All relationships get difficult at times. Talk to any couple that have been together for a long time and they will confirm that. They could have gone through rough times for weeks, months, some of them even years, but they persevered and made it through it. If you expect a relationship that's smooth sailing 24/7, then the only lasting relationship you're going to have is with yourself. And even that one won't always be smooth sailing. There's no perfect match or perfect relationship. I mean, hell, if you believe in something called twin flames or what some people call soulmates, those relationships are far from perfect. Actually, in the beginning, they can bring all the issues of each other to the surface so that they can resolve them. And it can be really rough, even toxic at times. I'm not going to get too deep into these belief systems and all that, but the point is, sometimes a relationship can be very challenging because it causes us to face some of our inner demons and brings them to the surface. But that's something that you need to assess yourself. Is the problem coming from the relationship or because of an internal issue you have coming to surface? Sadly, a lot of people run away from a relationship because it brings their internal issues to the surface. But at those times, that's giving you an opportunity to face those issues and resolve them, to better yourself, to grow. And with this person, those people should be appreciative that you are bringing it to their attention that, hey, you need to work on this, and that you have to face it because it's growth for both you and the relationship, and they're essentially helping you. Even though you may not see it then in hindsight, if they're bringing your inner demons out to make you have to deal with them, they're helping you in a way. Some people just don't see it that way though, and they'll jump from relationship to relationship trying to avoid their inner problems, even blaming the other people in the relationship for their problems, hoping one day someone will come along where they won't have to face their inner demons with them. And some of them do manage to convince themselves that it's always the other person. They just have bad luck, or they're attracted to all the wrong people, or whatever other excuse they can come up with to not accept personal accountability. Sadly, if they do find a relationship where they don't have to face their personal issues, those are the least beneficial relationships for those people with inner issues to resolve. But it's just the thought process of a lot of people out there with issues. They look for superficial relationships where they can continue to bottle up their inner problems because the two of them don't get deep enough with each other to bring it to the surface. That's an example of where you can't fix things with that person. Again, they have to be willing to face those problems as well. You can't make someone fix themselves. But anyway, as far as the stigma associated with counseling, here's a true statistic. Nearly 50% of all married couples have gotten couples counseling at some point in their relationship. It's a lot more common than you'd think. Most couples just don't talk about it because of the stigma, or they find it embarrassing, or it was such a rough phase they just don't want to talk about it and relive it again. There's not a single person on this earth, though, that could not benefit from counseling. Even many counselors have their own counselor. It's nice having a qualified professional be able to look at things from the outside, assess it, bring things to your attention you might be overlooking, new ways to look at something to improve your perspective, or new resources to be able to work on it. Seeing a counselor doesn't necessarily mean someone has issues at all. It could be them just trying to get feedback from a professional to continue to grow and improve, or someone for them to talk to just in order to vent. There's no shame in getting counseling, couples or individuals. Some couples might need both couples counseling in addition to individual counseling. That's up to you two to decide, or even better, ask your couples counselor after a few sessions, so once they know you a little bit, they can give you their professional opinion on it. With couples counseling, both sides get heard. If you have an issue with your partner talking over you, yelling at you, being unreasonable, putting all the blame on you, or in some way communication just breaking down between you two, they will not get away with that with a good couples counselor. Both sides get their fair share to talk and share their thoughts and feelings in a safe space for both of you. A lot of people confide in friends and family about the relationship problems. Problem with that is that the people are only hearing it from your side. More importantly, most of them are not qualified and trained to advise you on those types of issues. The most effective way to handle the problem is with a middleman, the counselor, who can listen to each of you, help you understand one another's perspectives better, and help find solutions that'll work for both of you. That's what they're educated to do. They also have all the resources and insight to help you move past things that you might think are impossible. If you two want what you had in the past and you're going to both make the effort, it's never impossible. There are a lot of affordable, or in some cases even free options, so don't just write it off thinking you can't afford it. Couples counseling will almost assuredly be your best option when it comes to fixing relationship issues. And if you two had a point where you were great and it was genuine, meaning it wasn't from love bombing or some other kind of manipulation that wasn't genuine, like genuine great relationship at one point, that's very hard to find. It's worth the cost. There are, of course, a lot of other resources out there as well. There's tons of books on the psychology of relationships, relationship help guides, or even books on particular types of relationship problems, like trust, sexual issues, just about anything you could think of. Some of these books are great. Most have exercises for you two to do to work on things, and some can dramatically help the two of you understand the situation better and come to an amicable solution. The downside of this is the books won't specifically target exactly what's going on with both of you on either end of the conflict. But if for whatever reason you two refuse to do couples counseling, this is another resource to try to get help. There's a lot of books that I've read over the years, but one of my favorites, a very popular bestseller in its genre, is Fighting for Your Marriage. It's by an author, Markman, and 3 or 4 other psychologists. It's very comprehensive. Most of what I've read in other relationship books, they cover in that one. I'm serious here. This isn't a marketing plug where I'm getting kickbacks from the author or publisher or anything like that. That's not the type of person I am. You can't buy me off. This is just my suggestion off the ones I've read and know about. There are plenty of others out there though, and if you've head somewhere like say Amazon to check books out, you can see the reviews from the people who got the book. See how they felt about it to see if you think it'd be worthwhile for the two of you based off of the reviews. Another resource to help the relationship is there are a lot of websites out there that claim to help couples in conflict. These can be very hit or miss though, so make sure you try to go with one that has a solid reputation. I mean, there's plenty of free sites, and you two can just sit down surfing the web together for various topics on things as well. Do it that way. But the sites that I'm talking about in particular are typically interactive ones. Most of them are where you get a membership for the resources, or you pay for specific workshops or specific worksheets, things like that. Most of them are really cheap though, and some are free. I'm not going to name any sites specifically, but I know there are tons out there, many of them which have a really great reputation. Sometimes the solution can be just as simple as sitting down and having a real heart-to-heart talk with one another. Really listening to each other instead of making assumptions or projecting your own thoughts or feelings onto them. Maybe writing down things you two will agree to commit to, or solutions you want to work on. Putting it on paper somewhere where you can see it regularly to remind each other. Post it on the fridge under a magnet, or on your computer, or even on your phones, to help solidify the commitment to what you're working on, and you have that to refer to, and so does your spouse, in order to remind you both what you're working on and how you're working on it. And if after all this you still just aren't sure if you even want to try with the person, let me tell you this. If you two ever had a strong chemistry, a strong connection, a strong love, finding someone you have that with is rare. I even have another video where I covered all the issues with online dating these days, and so many family and friends gave me feedback about it soon after, telling me they could all relate to what I covered in the video. Dating is rough, and the grass doesn't tend to be greener on the other side. In fact, sometimes it's not even grass on the other side, it's just mud. Don't get me wrong though. If the relationship is abusive, unless that person is willing to get immediate intervention with counseling and find a way to give you both a safe space while they work on it, you need to go. But in other cases, you really have to think hard about the notion of ending the relationship or fighting for it. So many people take relationships for granted after they've been with the person for a while. Then you start dating again, you find out the hard way that finding someone isn't easy. This is why there's a lot of relationships out there that are on again, off again, on again, off again. Because they end up taking each other for granted, breaking up, realizing, oh, I had it pretty good, I'm going to go back to them. But it's just a vicious cycle where they don't fix the problems they have, and they're bad enough to where they keep pulling apart, coming together, pulling apart, coming together. But when you start dating, you really do find out that it is not easy. I mean, if there is any hope of saving something that was really good at one point, you should at least try to save it. Make the effort. If you're in that situation where you're just not sure whether to stay or go, there's something that most professionals tend to recommend at this point. You get a pen and a piece of paper. You make 2 columns, one marked good, the other marked bad. Now, write a list of all the good things about that person and the relationship with them. Then you go on to the bad list and write a list of all the bad. And do not just focus on the present. Think of times in the past, times you feel where if you could fix these issues, you could have together again. Write down all the good that you have ever had with them that you feel was genuine, because assuming you can fix the relationship, there's a possibility of getting any and all of that back with them and then some, because now the issues are solved. The good isn't just the present, it's all the good that you're fighting to get back as well. And of course the bad, don't give them excuses, don't justify behaviors of theirs, be honest with yourself. Write down the bad for what it is. Something very important about this. Do not do this list when you are angry at them. You need to do this when you are calm and collected, or else you'll end up being biased and focusing mostly on the bad. Meditate before making the list if you need to. Look back on pictures, notes, cards, whatever you need to remind yourself of the good times, and make sure you're looking at everything about the relationship in its entirety and not just focusing on the issue. So, once you've completed both of the lists and you're sure you covered everything on both sides, step back and look at it. And here's another really important step. Look at the good list, cross out anything that was in the past that you know could never come back for whatever reason. You just cannot have it with them again. For some reason, it's not possible. Cross those out. Then you look at the bad. Cross out anything you feel could be resolved somehow. So, for example, if a bad is they cheated, make sure that it's past tense. They cheated and not they cheat, present tense if it has stopped. They cheated can't be changed. So you should keep that one on there as something you need to accept and live with. Don't cross something like that out. Just make sure if it was in the past, you have it in the past tense. But if it's something in the bad column like they don't want me sexually like they used to, that's something that most assuredly can be fixed the majority of the time. So at that point, you can scratch something like that off the list. Once you've done that with your lists, here's the final step. Get a new piece of paper, write a new sheet. Make the columns again, same good, bad again, but only write down the ones off of the first list that you didn't end up crossing out. This list that you've just made is now your potential future with them after you've fixed things, assuming you can. This list right here, this is what you're fighting for. Why you're going to try to make it work. This is the one you really need to reflect on and figure out if you want to fight for that or not. Breaking up shouldn't be taken lightly if you've been with the person for a while. Breaking up also shouldn't be avoided if you know for sure it couldn't be changed. And it also shouldn't be decided by friends and family. When people are looking at things from the outside, yes, they can give you some insight, but unless it's coming from a professional like a counselor that's hearing both sides, they're not giving you a fair opinion. And there's some times where they will give you advice that they wouldn't even do themselves because they're upset with that person for whatever reason. You told them a story about something that went wrong, whatever have you. Just, you can't rely on other people unless they are a trained professional and they've heard both sides of the story. Personally, I feel love is worth fighting for, so long as it doesn't put you or a loved one in danger, of course. Remember how hard it was to find that person. Remember why you started dating them in the first place. Try to look past all the muck that's built up over the years, because with effort, the muck can be washed off if you want it to be. And you can have what you used to have again as long as you're both willing to try. And if they aren't willing to try, maybe get them to watch this video or other resources about why you should fight for love and why it can be fixed. There are some people that drop relationships every time they get hard. I personally know someone in her 40s that's never had a relationship last longer than a year. And she's dated a lot of people over the years. Again, in her 40s, never a relationship longer than a year. Conversely, I also personally know some people who have been together 40 plus years, one for 50 plus years, and both of them still have the love that they had in the beginning. Was it always easy that whole way through the 40 years? Of course not. If you know somebody like that, ask them. And ask them for an honest opinion. Just tell them, like, hey, I want to know honestly, this is very important. Have you guys had issues in the past? And if you want to get into details, if they're willing to, ask them how many times, how they got through it. Who knows, maybe listening to them might help you with your own problems. It certainly couldn't hurt. But like I said, when it got rough, they didn't give up. They didn't just throw the relationship away. And now those people have someone they've shared all those experiences with and came out the other side together and stronger. It's a beautiful thing, and it's hard to find someone that's that committed to love these days. So if you do find that, don't throw it away without serious effort put into it. But also don't leave those issues unresolved. Get couples counseling, read relationship help books, use online resources, take steps to actually fix the problem. In most cases, it's worth it. It really, really is. And like I said before, if you're both willing to make the effort and do make the effort, you can fix it if you use the right sources to do so. Again, couples counseling, 75% chance. You find one with a really good reputation, it's going to be 90% or even better. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, try to get your significant other to watch the video as well. Encourage them, and who knows, this might be the first step in you guys fixing things. If you have any questions on anything or things you'd like to share, or even success stories down the road, post them in the comments below. If you've been through a really rough relationship and you made it through those times with couples counseling or some other resource, let us know in the comments below. Some of these people could really use that. And if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel so you can keep up with the other videos in the future. I hope this video was useful to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care.